Yes, so I'm recording this session. Nice to have you all back this week. Let's see if I'm more capable doing the screen sharing this week. Should be, it's an hour earlier, so I'm still very fresh. Right, so start the presentation and then share the screen. Can you guys see the presentation? Yes, really good. All right. So this is week 7 already, right? Which means it's the 8th session. Yes, it's going really fast. I have a message in chat. All right. So today we are going to discuss very briefly collections and generics, and next week we'll actually continue with that. But as usual, before we get started with this new topic, I'm going to have a look at what we have done for the homework this week. So let's move to our tournament IntelliJ editor. And then I'm going to, hold on, I have the homework open. Yes, there it is. So the first point was add constructors to your classes so you can initialize the fields with the constructor. So what did I mean with that? Well, for example, for the team, that instead of only having the team here like this, I also want to have constructors. So now I only have the default constructor, and I actually want to add more advanced constructor. So let's go. I'm just going to add all of them in. Go players. Coach. Int ranking, string color, int tournaments played, int bench strength, status. Here we go. And then here I'm going to say this players equals players and this name equals name. And I'm going to do that for all the fields. You could also generate constructors. Maybe I'll show that later after this one because I'm a bit lazy. So this ranking equals ranking. This color equals color. And this number of equals, and this in strength equals. Okay, so this is going to be a very long typing exercise. Why did we come up with so many fields? And last but not least, the status. This status, no, this status equals status. So there you go. So note that I'm using the same name in the constructor parameter list as I am using in the class. And because it cannot distinguish between players and players, when I'm in here, the default players, so to say, is the ones that's nearest, and that is one from the parameter list. So if I want to refer to the instances players, I'll have to use the this keyword, like this. Does that make sense? Yes. And now you see it on top already. It says for related problems. Well, what does that mean? Well, because of inheritance going on, I'll have to do something with the constructors in my child classes too, because they only have the default constructor. And if you remember, that looked something like this. And with this super over here, it is calling the parents constructor with no arguments, but I just added a constructor to the parent, this one. And because I added one, the default constructor doesn't exist any longer. So in my amateur team and my professional team, they are having troubles right now. So what I can do, I can create, I have multiple options, but the most sensible option would be to create a constructor that calls the parent constructor that does actually exist. So, okay, I'm going to copy this long line here. There we go. And then I'm just going to say that, well, if you want to create an amateur team, we'll need all this. And then we just call the parents constructor with all that. Just remove the types and then I'd be good to go. You think this looks a bit ugly. Is this really a best practice? Well, with so many arguments, it's more common to use builders, but it's out of the scope for this course, but just so you know, and you can look into it. So right now, my problem with the amateur team is solved because with this super, I'm calling the constructor of the parent. So that one is solved. Let's do something similar for the professional team. But it's slightly more elaborate here because our professional team, it actually has a budget too. So I will add the budget to our list of input parameters here. Double budget. And then question for you guys, please answer me in the chat. Should I put the this.budget equals budget before or after the super? What do you guys think? I did lose the chat there, hold on. I'm looking for the chats. Okay, I can't see the chats. Oh, there it is. Yes, so quite some people are responding after, and they're saying super is always on the first line, and it is, so that is a problem here. So we'll have to do it after, because the first call of a constructor is always not a constructor. This is why you can only call one constructor, because it's actually the only place where you can call a constructor from a constructor. So let's go here, and let's say this.budget equals budget, like this. Well, I already said I will show you how to generate a constructor. This one's actually not well encapsulated yet. Let's see if I have another one. At least it has the private. Do you guys remember how to generate the getters and setters? Because this is very similar actually. So in here, I'm first going to generate the getters and setters. But if you look closely in there, where it generates, I could also say constructor, and I could just select what properties should be in the constructor, and I'm selecting them. And I go, yes, yay, did my homework. It's cheating, right? So right-clicking generate or the shortcut alt insert, as Leon is pointing out in the chat. You can just select that you want to create a constructor, and then if I want to create a new constructor with only 2 of the properties, I'll just select them and I hit OK, and there it tells you does all the typing for me. I'm getting a question in the chat asking whether, if I'm using the word private, whether I should delete these or not. This is actually not related. Private is just talking about from where you can access the object. And these two, they are just saying, hey, this is an array. So I think, Daniela, this is why your private string players went wrong, because you removed the thingies and then it still said is new array or something like that. And that's not possible, because if you insert an array, you'll have to insert an array. So this is just talking about the level of access of this property. So let's see. So that was the first step of our homework. Let's have a look at the second one. Yes. The question was, do any of your classes need to be abstract? What did you guys answer? Can you let me know in the chats? Meantime, I'm looking for the chat. Yes, so Leon says team can be abstract, and indeed it can. I think it's actually the only class we're having in our project we could be abstract. Because if you remember, abstract means that you cannot initiate the class. So, there's still some issues here. But if I make this abstract, that means that at no place I can say new team, and that's fine. Because actually team is too vague. I want to know whether it's a professional team or an amateur team. So I don't want to create just a team. And the problems related, I think they are in our main methods. Yes. So that's not too relevant for now. And also I don't want to spoil the next question, which is, do we need static methods in our project and why? Can you let me know in the chats? Oh, it's very quiet in the chat. So well, we need at least one static method, because if you remember it, you'll see that the main method that we're having, it's static. And without the static method, we cannot start our project. So that would be a problem, right? Other good reasons for a static method would be anything that is some sort of helper method or doing something external to the class. So these could all be static. But whenever you need an instance, it clearly cannot be static. Yes, let's go. Round I, teams is winners. Oh yeah, so this has to be set teams. Sorry, I really cannot stand red lines in my code. So I won't look to the rest because there's clearly some red lines, but I'll clean them up later. They are related to the tournament, to the team being so here we just go amateur team, and here we go professional team. And I think our code will, oh yeah, clearly we need to insert all this stuff. Okay, I'm too lazy for that, but I cannot call this now any longer because I have to give all the arguments we just specified. So all of these I'll have to enter. Well, I'm not going to do that right now, but you should, and I can do that later in between. So it will be working next week if you want to run it again. Are there any questions about the homework? People nodding no. That's good. All clear? Yes, then it's time to move on. And we actually have a really nice topic this week because we are talking about the collections. And collections are going to make our life much easier because pretty much everywhere we've been using arrays will now be using collections. The advantages, I'll touch upon them as soon as we get there. But to understand collections, we also have to understand generics. And generics, they actually are a bit vague, maybe so to say. They are variables, or I think the official term is parameterized types. They look a bit like this. So you have a bag, it's a class, and now there is between the greater than smaller than signs, there is some sort of letter. And this letter is a generic. And we are using it throughout our class, and it's actually going to be replaced with some sort of type. So to give you no, wait, let me first say why we want this. So say that we make some sort of class that we want to use in multiple situations. And we want to use this bag for groceries, and we want to use the bag for tools, and we want to use the bag for, I don't know what, office supplies. We would have to create 3 classes with all of these specified. And if the rest is the same, that's actually a bit redundant, right? We would be copy pasting, and copy pasting is never good. So therefore, these generics, they are some sort of extra abstraction layer, and they avoid duplicate code. So let's have a look at how we could use them. So here I'm having a class groceries, and I'm having a class Chihuahua, and I'm initiating both. And I'm creating a bag with groceries as the type, And here I'm creating a bag with Chihuahua as the type. And this means, if we look back, that in this class, all the T's, they would be replaced with grocery or Chihuahua, depending on which one you're looking at. So the content would be of type groceries. So if we say get content, we know we'll get type groceries back. And if we want to set the content, we know that we must give it groceries because our class has a generic of groceries. So you can say set content, but that must be the right type because it knows the type since we inserted the generic. So you see it here. If you want to set to the grocery bag the Chihuahua content, it's going to give a compiler error. It's going to tell us that it cannot set the content from T to Chihuahua. So that does make sense, right? Because it knows it should be groceries. It just says required groceries provided Chihuahua. That's a problem. Yes? I can understand this is quite heavy stuff, but luckily we are not going to use it just like this. I just need you guys to understand this before we start with the collections. Because the collections, they are a bit like a list, or a bit like a bag. You can insert multiple items in them. And we'll have to specify what kind of items are going to be in our collection. So what is a collection? It's very similar to what we've seen with the arrays. It's an option to store multiple objects in one variable instead of only storing one object in one variable. And Java has a whole lot of types of collections built in. These collections, they pretty much consist of 4 main groups. We have the so-called lists, we have sets, queues, and maps. Lists, they are the ones you probably find yourself using the most. They are ordered, so they have a certain order, and they may contain duplicates. We also have sets, and sets, they are unordered, and they only have unique values on them. Then we have the queues, and they're very much like a queue at a checkout in a store. You can only add to the end of the queue, depending on the queue though, and only take from the beginning of the queue. Some queues, they are double-ended, so you can add on both the end and the beginning and take from the end and the beginning. But in general, queues are like the queue at the checkout. You get in line at the back and the person in front is being served first. Then we have a map. Map, they're also used a lot, and because these are the so-called key value pairs. So in a map, you can retrieve the stuff that you put in by the value you gave it. So sorry, by the key that you inserted. So say we have a map that contains all our names and our ages, then the names, they must be unique because they are the keys. So if there is a duplicate name in a group, that's a problem because it's the key. So we can only retrieve it by the key. And if there's 2 of the same keys, we don't know which one to grab. So you can get the value by asking for the key. Yes, you'll get some practice with that really soon. So don't worry, it's definitely part of the homework. Here you see them all in action. So we have a string list with some stuff added to it. We have a set with also something added to it. You can actually add the same thing multiple times. It will just not do it. That's all. We have the queue. You can add to the queue, and we have the map. And to the map you put. And as you can see, you have to insert 2 values, the key and the value. So then here you see the generic specified. I'm actually saying these are all strings, string generics, means that I have to insert string objects. I cannot add an animal here. I cannot say add new animal because animal is not a string. What is nice though, that if you would say list team, we could add both professional and amateur teams to this list. Because team has 2 child classes, amateur and professional. And because they have a relationship with team, they can be added to something that only allows for a team. Does that make sense? I am going to have a look at the chat if I manage to find it. Yes. Oh, so asking me what I mean with the unique values. Yeah, so someone else is responding that there cannot be duplicates. So if we're going to make a list of all the participants and there would be 2 Danielles in here, that would be a problem because we can add only one since it's not a unique value anymore. Any other questions? Yes, so Shalika is asking, so if we define team, do we write it as a class with a team and then a T in the back? We could if we would have teams of different kind of things, but right now we know that we have a team of players and we don't need to have a parameterized type for team because we know what we are dealing with. So this generic is really to make some part of the class, some part of the types of the class variable. How does it know that it's a generic? It knows it because of the thingies that are in the back and the positioning at the class. Any other questions? Yes, Shalika, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, why do we want to use generics? Like, what does it really add?
Okay, so let me just do a bag example, but then without generics. Let's go.
Okay.
IntelliJ.
Yeah.
Let's go. Yeah. So let's just create a bag. And this one is just for groceries. So it's going to be groceries. And I'm also going to, well, no, let's just put stuff in it first. So I think I have it here. So I'm going to be a bit lazy. Here. And then this one is going to be of type groceries.
Okay.
So is this one. So is this one. So is this one. And this one. And then I also want to be able to carry my non-existing dog. And I'm going to do that with my Chihuahua bag. Or just tiny dog bag. Just make it slightly more general. Tiny dog bag. And then here we can say that, let's make a tiny dog class. Why am I doing this? Tiny dog. Might as well go for Chihuahua. Anyways, extends dog. And then we just say that, import. Let's just tell it to implement the constructor. So lazy, huh? And then here in Chihuahua, we're going to say that Chihuahua extends tiny dog. Like this.
Okay.
Let's do something similar with the, there we go. And our tiny dog bag, it's actually very similar to the grocery bag, except that this one is containing tiny dogs. So this has to go, and this has to be a tiny dog. This could go. Maybe we also want to have some other type of bag. I don't know.
But didn't we do like something similar when we were trying to extend classes? Like, so when we, yeah, isn't it similar?
Yeah, so you could say now that instead of having all of these, we could have a, wait, let me finish my bird bag.
Okay, okay.
We could have some sort of parent bag, and then that could have children, but still it would be a bit difficult because let me try the implementation afterwards.
Okay.
I may have thought of a whole new concept. A bird bag. But so we have 3 bags, and there was a lot of typing.
Yeah.
And it's also safe now at some point we want to make an adjustment to the bag class. We would have to go ahead and adjust it in all 3 your classes.
Right.
This implement, you can just say upon initialization, hey, I have a bag for this specific type, and then I don't need to do all the copying, pasting, and all the maintenance of all my extra files.
So where do we define what kind of bags we want?
We actually don't define it at all. We just, whenever we create one, we'll have to be specify it. So if I'm creating a bag here like this,
Uh-huh.
I can just say, oh, this is going to contain a bird.
But then bird is a class. But if I don't define bird, bird needs to be defined, right?
Yes, bird needs to be defined though. So this could be anything. It could also be a bag for bags for chihuahua.
Yeah, but bird bag doesn't need to be defined. I understand. Okay.
So it will just now dynamically, it will first create a bag with type chihuahua, and then I actually have a bag to put all my chihuahua bags in. So you can
Yes, okay.
so, and if I don't say anything here, because you can do that,
Mm-hmm.
I don't specify anything, it's
Mm-hmm.
assuming that the type is object. And
Okay.
that's a bit too vague. So it's a very general bag that we can put everything that's a Java object in. So we
Mm-hmm.
can combine our tiny dog with the groceries and it would become one big mess. So it's
Okay.
important that whenever you use the generics that you specify what you want to have in your list.
Mm-hmm.
So this is
Okay. I understand.
question why you cannot do this with a parent class. So say that we
Mm-hmm.
would have a parent class here
Yeah.
containing nope, something like this.
Mm-hmm.
What should be the type of our content in the parent bag then?
Yeah.
Because well, object could be, but then we cannot
And
get
content is just a variable, Micah, right?
yes, it's just a
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
bag.
Okay.
The problem that if we do it this way, we cannot specify what can be in the bag.
Yes. Okay.
Does that help?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's kind of so when I was looking at classes which implement parent classes, it's kind of like top down, but here it is like a bottom up. So it so like different kind of functions can be packaged in one kind of
Yeah,
uh, creation, something like that.
yeah, it's very much like that. But then when you look at this class,
Hmm.
it just has one variable here, and it's just a type. So there is no inheritance or whatever taking place, but
Yeah, yeah,
you are creating the actually during compiling, you're creating all the classes.
right. Yeah, okay. And it's always defined like this, or we can have more parameters according to the needs.
Yes, you can indeed have more parameters. So we could have something like this as well, and then use it here as a.
Okay, and the number of variables and the number of arguments in the bracket, should they match
No, you can actually have unused ones.
also? Okay.
Oh, well, yes. So here I'm having two, but then in my main method where I'm using it,
Mm-hmm.
I have to specify this second one, even though I'm not using it. Without that
Okay.
one, it cannot create the bag.
Okay. Okay. Understood. Yes.
Good question. Any other questions? Oh, no other questions? All right, then you're up again. So after the session, I'll post this session on YouTube so you can rewatch it if you need to. And I also put some short videos on the topics on there. And under this videos, you'll find the homework that I'd like you to do for this week. If you have any questions, leave them under the videos or in the chat group. It's all fine. Yes? I'm going to check the chat group once more. There it is. No questions? All right, then I'm going to quit the recording at least.